Welcome to Life by Design. I'm your host, Robyne, and I am thrilled to welcome you to this space for real conversations about how we live, how we show up day in and day out, because the quality of our life is shaped by our habits. What we do in ordinary time allows us to be extraordinary. We can unpack what it takes to truly live well and be well in real life. Welcome to Life by Design. And I'm just so excited that you're here.
We're going to pivot a wee bit. We're going to talk about the tech effect with the founder of the tech effect. Now, Kareem Perez is someone who I have so many questions for about when we think about marketing, when we think about branding, but also how we're able to braid in this idea about mentorship. What should we be looking for? What questions should we ask? And what tools can help us get clarity on that very question. So please join me for this episode with Kareem. I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed interviewing him, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts on this episode. Thanks for tuning in. And without further ado, here's Kareem Perez on all things marketing and mentoring. This has been like a long time in the works. I'm so excited to welcome Kareem Perez today. He is the founder of The Tech Effect and somebody I have been so excited to be able to bring to the community to have this conversation about like all things like marketing, entrepreneurship, this idea about connection, community, social, the digital space, and how we can position this in a way that really serves our communities, serves ourselves in terms of our livelihoods and our lifestyle. So, Kareem, welcome.
Very excited, Robyne. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so Kareem, full disclosure, I need to share this. My first encounter with you is I remember I had seen some like reels on social media about this person and was a professor talking about digital connection. I thought, oh, this is really cool. And then fast forward a couple months, I go to a basketball event and there were like, I want to say at least 4 courts. You know what it's like? It's noisy, it's chaotic. We're waiting for the game to start. And I look over and all the parents and the supporters are on their phones. And then there's one dude who's reading a book. Like, I mean, like a paper book. And I was like, who is that person? And then all of a sudden all these dots start to connecting. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the tech effect guy. And then, oh my gosh, that happens to be KJ's dad. And let's just hold space that you have one heck of a baller in your household. He is
Appreciate it. So do
so
you. Do you?
so skilled, but I couldn't believe this little moment where I'm like, it's the Tech Effect founder and he's reading a book at a basketball game. And sure enough, our boys end up getting to play on a team together for a season. And now we are here.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. Yeah, really interesting that you mentioned that. I don't know if you remember the book. I'm not sure I do, but um, I would walk around with the book obviously to read and stay up to date. But I always made that connection in my head as well, where it's everybody's on their phone, and to
Yes.
stay off my phone, I'm just gonna walk around with a paper book. Also, I would walk around with specific books, and people would ask me,
Yeah.
like, "Oh, what is this about?" and spark up a conversation. So, back to what you said about connection, I always felt that was like a connection point too, where sometimes I would not necessarily like hold it in the air, but I would have the cover like
Yeah.
visible
Yeah.
to see like, yeah, people would be like, "Hey, what are you reading? Like, what's it about?" And that would spark like a whole conversation.
Which I love, and what I remember, it was like you stood out, right? Like, you stood out because you were doing something totally different, and when I realized, I'm like, "That's the tech effect guy. This is the digital guy, and he's reading a paper book." Like, I just love that
Mm,
for me, there was this
for
tension
sure.
about, like, you're the social media person, and here you are. So, for folks who haven't had a chance yet to check out your app and your materials, can you give them just a little bit of a snapshot of the work that you do and how you show up in community?
Yeah, I appreciate it. So, I have a background in digital marketing, working for digital marketing agencies for the past, decade. And part of that was seeing the transformation that digital technology has caused in the workplace, in the career, in the careers of a lot of people. So I started the Tech Effect as a way to bridge the gap for people within the industry who were looking for talent,
Yes.
because they knew they needed people, but they were a little bit confused in terms of who's the right fit.
Yeah.
Things are changing so fast. And then on the flip side, there's a lot of people who are interested in joining the industry and getting into it. So I started the Tech Effect as a community meetup point, a education piece where people can connect. And then it blossomed into workshops, teaching at the university level, and having events to just bring people together.
Yeah, I absolutely love that because what I see is it's like the heart of entrepreneurship where here you are, you see something on the horizon and say, "Hey, I know a lot about this and I can be this conduit to set people up for success." And you're helping other people do that, and in exchange like this is what you get to do. And I love how you're setting up this for other people to onboard into a place where maybe they weren't quite sure where do they even start. And so I love, for example, your assessment, right? Can you tell us a little bit about your? I know we have lots of tools, but the tool in terms of like, I love the one where it's like, do you need a mentor? Like that is so cool in terms of what are you looking for? And you're giving people clarity, Cream, which is amazing. So could you tell us a wee bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my key values are clarity, sincerity, and prosperity, right? So
Oh,
having
that's
a
good.
clear picture of where you want to go, being sincere in the connection, and of course, the prosperity piece is that we all have to make ends meet
Yeah.
and prosper and thrive in our lives. So, our tool, our digital mentorship program, one of the biggest things that I realized in the beginning, and this is through being a mentor,
Mhm.
both informally and formally, and then now getting, studying mentorship a little bit more and doing a little bit more research, is a large gap within the mentor and mentee relationship
Yes.
is the matching process.
Mhm.
And part of that matching process is, it usually works in terms of interest and skill set of, okay, I want to get into marketing. So I need somebody that's senior in marketing. But there's a lot more layers to that.
Yes.
Um, there's a lot more layers in terms of connecting people, but also in terms of a lot of people are not prepared or educated in terms of how can I be a good mentor, or how,
Mhm.
as a mentee, am I supposed to show up to get the most out of this relationship? So our assessment tools take it a little bit further rather
Yeah.
than just saying, okay, what industry are you in and what do you want to learn? And it gets more into the psychographics behind the person and
Yes.
different ways they can achieve mentorship. And what I wanted to say about that too is, you mentioned the book in the beginning,
Yeah.
and in our first conversation, when you told me you had a few books, that's what really caught my attention, because
Yeah.
here I was reading and you said, okay, well, I actually wrote a couple books.
Yeah.
But I've been working on a book based on mentorship, and just the fact that the perception of what it is has developed so much over time,
Mhm.
and there's really so many variations of mentorship rather than the traditional senior person helping a junior person.
Yes.
There's group mentorship, there's reciprocal benefits for both the mentor and the mentee. So these are the things that we explore in our assessment and, educate both mentors and mentees of how, if you're going to enter a relationship, this is how you get the most out of it.
Yes.
So yeah, so that's kind of what our tool is built to do, is to add that extra layer of insight so that when you do match with somebody, you get the most out of the relationship on both ends.
I absolutely love that. And what I also appreciate is that recognition that it's not a one size fits all, that people's needs and their wants and even just their expectations. And what you're doing is you're offering these, again, these connection points where you get the right fit. So people are able to have a positive experience. Because one of the things as a behaviorist that always kind of makes me sad is that people try something once and they'd be like, oh, no, it didn't work for me. And then they think that whole category is not relevant or doesn't, isn't effective for them. And what you're doing is really like building and setting up this as a successful point where you're giving people the language to be able to say, this is what I'm looking for. And you're allowing people to establish these expectations and the reciprocity, right? Like I love how it goes both ways. And we both know that, often the mentor benefits so much more than the mentee does, or in a different way. And one of the places of clarification that I would so appreciate if you could help me understand is there a difference or what is the difference between like mentoring and mentorship and perhaps coaching. And what we see and what we talk about is kind of that traditional coaching model where people in a field might reach out for a coach to be able to help them. Can you help me understand the difference? Or maybe there isn't a difference, whatever that might look like.
Yeah, this is something that I've been exploring a lot more because, in my initial stages of mentorship and research, and it's not necessarily that I didn't know the difference, but
Yeah.
I wasn't very clear on
Yeah.
where that separation happens. So the mentor as a mentor, your goal and your role is to really provide that support and guidance.
Yes.
So you're there as a sounding board, you're there as, somebody who has been down that path before, but you're really not necessarily providing actionable steps or like that coaching element. So
Right.
you're providing suggestions, you're providing direction, but it's really up to the mentee to kind
Yeah.
of decide, okay, which way am I going to take and how am I going to get there? So you're almost providing that clarity.
Right.
Whereas with the coaching, you're actually providing tools and specific direction of how they can improve in specific areas. So you're pretty much taking it a little bit of a step further
Yes.
and working more intimately with them to understand how they can develop in a specific area. So I think it's a little bit blurred.
Yeah.
And what's actually interesting is that this conversation has come up recently in a conversation that I had with somebody who I interviewed because there's also sponsorship as well.
Right. Yes.
You
Yes.
have the sponsor. So what I realized in that conversation is that a lot of times when I have a mentee, they might be looking for coaching from me and they might be looking from sponsorship.
Right.
And I had to reflect to understand where those transition points were.
Yes.
And a lot of times I didn't realize that,
Yes.
so they would come and say, "Hey, I want you to mentor," and I would kind of provide guidance and direction, but they would really be wanting me to sponsor them and get them
Yes.
into an opportunity.
Yes.
So this goes back to what we were saying about the assessment and the clarity. It's
Mhm.
having the language and the insight of what those differences are is like night and day in these relationships because mentorship has been kind of blurred into coaching and sponsorship, and people think it's all part of the same the same kind of world.
Yes.
But for me also, there's different tools and different kind of education points. If you want to become a coach,
Right.
there's certain type of certifications you can
Yep.
get or certain type of tools you can use. And what I found is a lot of times I wasn't really equipped in
Mhm.
those areas because I wasn't a certified coach. So it's like
Fair.
I'm mentoring somebody, they're looking for tools.
Yeah.
And of course, based on my professional experience, I can
Yeah.
give them information.
Yes.
But then when I met like certified coaches, they're like, "Oh, I got a tool for that
Yeah.
specific thing," right? So yeah, so I think that's where, that's something definitely worth exploring and
Mhm.
clarifying as part of this relationship. And that's part of what we talked about in the assessment is it's not necessarily are you looking for a coach or a mentor, but
Yeah.
based on what you're looking for, we can guide you in the right direction.
Yeah, I absolutely appreciate that distinction, and you did a beautiful job showing how they're unique and they're complementary, but the outputs and the expectations are going to look different. So I very much appreciate that. And another piece, if it's okay, just to explore, I really, 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 really love how you're talking about these tools, these systems, you're building connections, but you're not only talking about like the work, you're also talking about like how we do the work. And what I mean by that is like as, as a business owner, there's times where I'm working in the business and then there's times I'm working on the business. And what I really love about your material and your philosophy and how you show up for people is you're giving people both. Like these are the tools in the business. We know this is going to be something that's transferable. It's something that you can monetize. It's how you build a brand. But then you also bring in this element, Cream, when you're talking about how do we do this in a well way? How do we do this when we're aligned with our values? The fact that sincerity is one of your drivers. How do we prevent burnout? Like, how do we do all of this successfully, but also take care of ourselves in the meantime? And I feel like that sometimes gets lost that it has to be one or the other. And I really appreciate how you bring those together. So could you tell us just a little bit about what that looks like and maybe how you think about the mindset, the how we do the work, not just the work that we're doing?
Yeah, this is definitely, a personal experience that I've had, and I've seen it in the corporate space and the mentorship space. But just like you mentioned, the transferable skills they're almost like the lowest hanging fruit,
Yeah.
right? I want to get into marketing. I want to work in an agency. Okay, you can learn social media. You can go to
Mhm.
school and learn these skills, YouTube University or whatever other way
Yes.
you
Yeah.
learn, right? There's that those transferable skills are accessible.
Yes.
But what I noticed, both personally and with others, is that it's really the mindset
Mhm.
and some of those other blockers in terms of just like wellness and your just their overall personal well-being that's blocking you from even getting to the skill development,
Yes.
right? So I think that's really important to have those conversations and basically explore what those blockers could be,
Mhm.
because regardless of learning a skill, if you don't feel 100%, and of course, like 100% is just a theoretical number in this
Yeah.
case, but if you don't feel your best self and you don't feel like you can show up and be yourself and be who you are and showcase what your talents are, then there's so many negative doubts and
Yeah.
things that prevent you from even taking that risk.
Mhm.
Now, what could that risk be? That risk could be, right? So for example, one exercise I do with a lot of my mentees, I'll say, "Hey, I have a network that I've built over years.
Mhm.
My network is your network, so you can reach out to any person
Yes.
and just say, "Hey, Kareem sent me," right?
Yeah.
Like even if I technically never sent you to them, but
Yes.
you're working with me, so you can reach out to them."
Mhm.
Now, there's a fear a lot of people will say. They'll be like, "Hey, well, I don't know them. What am I gonna
Yeah.
ask them?
Yeah.
They don't have enough time for me." And these are not things that I've said. Like I've
Yeah.
already told them, like, you can do it, you can reach out to them. But that's what I noticed is that some people will have these mental blocks and
Yeah.
they'll feel anxious, they'll feel stressed
Mhm.
to take these risks. And part of when I started the tech effect and through my experience of training and development is that um understanding that teaching the skill is one part of it, but creating an environment
Mhm.
to take risks and to
Yeah.
fail and to develop and have that aha moment where it's
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, I was so scared, but I
Yeah.
did it and I actually got the interview or the
Yep.
person answered my call. What I realize is that's the unlocking piece, right?
Yes.
When they realize I didn't think I could do something
Mhm.
and I tried it and I was successful. And even if I wasn't successful, I overcame my
Yeah.
fear and my doubt. That actually feeds the skill development, and that adds fuel to the fire
Mhm.
of excitement to learn
Yeah.
and try and do new things. So a lot of times, like when I started teaching, I was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna have a straight curriculum and teach
Mhm.
people like SEO and marketing and
Yep.
websites and
Yes.
whatever." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Well, no, they can actually learn that on their own
Yeah.
technically, but it's more about unlocking their ability to take chances,
Mhm.
take risks, and believe in themselves, and yeah, and show up, stress free and
Yeah.
focus on their personal wellness."
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And you know what? One of the things that I still find interesting is, when I say to people like, "Hey, I don't have this all figured out, but like I've had some hard learned lessons along the way. This is hard earned wisdom." And I love when people ask me questions. Like I absolutely
Mhm.
love if a student or somebody comes and says like, "Hey, I saw that you were a professor, but then you pivoted and now you're doing this." Like, why? I love those conversations. The conversations I don't love are those super awkward standing at social networking events and like nobody really knows what's to say and we're all just looking at each other's shoes. Like like
Right.
small talk, it's like to me it's like gross. I feel like I have like this aversion to small talk. However, if you ask me like a juicy question where it'd be like, "Whoa, how do you get published? Like how do you start a podcast?" I have all of the time for that. Like I love to make time for that conversation. And that's a message that I try to really put out there that like, hey, if you have curiosities and if you again are bold enough just to say, "Hey Robin, can you help me with this?" or "What's your thoughts of that?" Like I have all the time in the world for those conversations because to me it's part of our role as mentors, our role as people who've again had these experiences that we pay that forward because people helped us out. Like you and I didn't get to where we are because
Right.
we figured it out all by ourselves or we watched one YouTube video, right? We had so many people who imparted knowledge and skills and gifts and talents and information. And I believe it's our role to keep passing it forward and pay it forward.
Yeah, 100%. Two things came to mind as you were kind of speaking in there, and it was really two books. The first element was when I started the Tech Effect, and same thing. I'm reaching out to my mentors and
Yes.
coaches, and just figuring things out as an entrepreneur, and in the space is that there's a book, Adam Grant, Give and Take.
Yep.
So that's one of my favorite
Go
books
to.
that kind of
Yeah.
injected that whole philosophy into the Tech Effect, where it's
Yeah.
like, hey, I have something to give, but I also need something, and that's
Yeah.
how everybody is. But there's also that concept of sending the elevator back down, right?
That's
So
right.
you get up to the top, or you get up to the penthouse, or
Yeah.
whatever the case is, and there's people still there, right? And you're gonna send that elevator back down and lift them up as much as possible.
Yeah.
And then one reflection that comes to mind is, again, in the agency space and in coaching and development, another action item that I always give people is share your story, right? So it's
Yes.
like, hey, you're looking for a job, or you're trying to build your personal brand, and part of that is, just sharing your knowledge or sharing your interests and just showing that personal side. Again, it's not
Yeah.
only about the skill. And then people will say, well, hey, I don't have 10 years experience like you, Kareem. What am I
Mhm.
supposed to say? I just started off. Nobody wants to hear what I'm having to say, right? Because I'm just beginning. But then what I always remind them is that there's always going to be another beginner
That's
after
right.
you, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, I was a beginner once too.
Yes.
You're a beginner, and sharing those lessons is going to help the next person who's coming up. So I'm really, really big on that philosophy. The other one that I've taken personally, and injected into everything I do, and I believe it's from Radical Candor. I can't remember the author, but when I started in leadership in the agency space, I was very intimidated because I
Yeah.
was like, hey, I'm working with the CEOs, I'm
Yeah.
working with these executives, they're running these massive companies. And, who am I
Yeah.
to be in these rooms with them? Like, yes, I do marketing, but, I'm not like a Fortune 500 CEO, these type of things. And as I was reading this book, it's really the philosophy of um, focusing on what you can control
Yes.
and just taking the action and not necessarily overthinking the result.
Mhm.
Right. So, for example, I think the example in the book was with dating, right? Like, okay, you see somebody, you want to introduce yourself, you want to go up to them and talk to them. A lot of people will jump to, okay, the result, right?
Yeah.
What if
Yeah.
the person says no? Like,
Yeah.
what if I get
Exactly.
embarrassed? Like, all of
Yes.
these things. And that approach is really focus on what you can control. All you can do is approach that person,
Yeah.
share your interest or share your idea, whatever situation you're in, and however they react, that's up to them. You can't
Yes.
control that. So
Yes.
that's another big part too, where, for me, when I have something that I fear, or I feel anxious, or something that, I'm not really sure what the result will be, I just kind of remind myself, hey, you just have to show up the best
Yep.
you can be. You just have to prepare and do the best job you can, and let the universe take control of, the
Mhm.
rest.
Yeah.
And part of it is going back to what you mentioned around alignment,
Yeah.
is that I've come to the I've accepted the fact that not every situation is gonna be in alignment for me,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Not every opportunity is good for me, and that's okay,
Mhm.
And as I did deeper research into that, I actually kind of got mind blown, because I'm like, for two people to be aligned at the same time, same
Mhm.
mindset, same time frame, that's actually a blessing,
Yes.
So, like,
Yes.
for example, like,
100%.
we're on this
Yeah.
call today, it's kinda like, okay, if you're busy, I'm busy,
Yeah.
you're traveling, people have lives, people have all these other things happening. So, to be able to be in alignment with somebody, whether it's personally or professionally, or is really a blessing, and it's,
Mhm.
like, something that doesn't happen very often.
Yes.
So I've made peace with the fact that, you know what, if something doesn't work out, it
Mhm.
just wasn't meant to be, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. It's kind of like, where we have that agency is with how we choose to show up, things that are within our control. And
Yes.
then just recognizing the things that are outside of our control that, I love that just notion, even your language around, we just make peace with that because we can drive ourselves frustrated, mad, like discouraged, like we can do a whole sort of, emotional soup on the other end of it, which we have no control over. But even just that language, if I'm choosing to make peace of it, you're holding your power. Like you're still staying in the driver's seat, which I think is so important. And I can share with you about that about personal alignment just briefly. I remember when I was navigating entrepreneurship and it was, I was leaving that secure university, all of that like structure that apparently is secure, even though you can be restructured any day. Although we have this illusion that the 9 to 5 is safe and anything outside is not safe. And I remember one of my values for me personally, it was is my faith. It's my trusting, right? Trusting that I have the skills, the gifts, and the tools, and things work in, things are working for me, and I trust this. And I remember one day thinking, oh my gosh, like I'm trying to control all these variables that are outside of my control. And I had a moment where I paused, Kareem, and I said, wait a second, if I want to show up in my values, it is actually just surrendering the outcome. If I truly want to show up in my values, I am a person who will have faith that this is going to work out if it's meant to work out. And if it's not, that means I'm being protected or there's something greater, and just stay the course. And I remember every time that anxiety would start to flare up, I'm like, wow, that's not in alignment with me being somebody who has faith that I'm doing the work that I'm designed to do, that I'm here to do. And I just remember just kept going back to it and just revisiting anytime when the doubt, the worry, or, as some, people, some call it imposter syndrome, or like, why should I be at that table, or who am I to speak up? Just trusting that if it's meant for me, it will find me. And if it's not meant for me, it's going to pass me by. And that itself is a blessing. And using my values to help stay regulated in the kind of bumpiness of entrepreneur in trying new things, taking risks. It was super helpful for me. And I love how you highlighted that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, Robin, one of the things that I always recite to myself is you can do hard things.
Hey,
And that actually
hey.
came from your book,
Yes.
right? And again, it's a simple reminder
Yeah.
that, hey, when I feel that pressure, I feel that imposter syndrome, it's
Yeah.
okay. Like I can do this, I can overcome it.
Yeah.
Um, so thank you for that.
Oh, you are so welcome. That literally makes my heart smile when I hear people say, I can do hard things. It's like, yes, you can. Green. We're designed to be able to
Like I
do
can
hard
do it.
things.
I can
Yeah,
do
you
that.
can too. I
And then
love
the
that.
other part I wanted to quickly mention as well,
Please.
as you mentioned the 9 to 5, is our motto is digital skills that pay the bills,
I
right?
love
So I
that.
just want to check that out.
Say that. Can
But
you say that again just because I want the people in the back to hear it? Like,
right. So the Tech Effect training and development organization, our motto is digital skills that pay the bills, right? So learning digital skills that can pay your bills. But ultimately what I found is that, just like you mentioned, whether you're in a 9 to 5, and yes, anything can happen,
yeah.
restructure, layoffs, all
Mhm.
these scenarios that I've been a part of and also coach people through.
Yes.
One of the biggest things that we teach is to be able to earn on either way, right? So it's like
Yes.
if you have a 9 to 5 opportunity and it's great, and it works, it checks all the boxes in terms of what you're looking for, there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah.
Like that's great. It's, like you said, it's secure to a degree, it's in the field of your interest, and you have that consistent
Yeah.
monetary gain, right? But if anything does happen, which of course, with the rise of technology
Mhm.
and transformation of the whole digital space, now when you find yourself without a job or in a situation where you don't have something secure, you should still have the skills to
Yes.
earn
Mhm.
and make money. So with these digital skills, it's so important because, like you mentioned, as an entrepreneur, you can leverage these skills to grow your business, or even if you don't have your own business, you can help other people and freelance and do
Yeah.
these type of things. And it's very important. But on the flip side, if a great organization needs those skills and talents as well, you can jump in there and do the
Absolutely.
same. So I'm very big on that. I think that's really important, and it's very empowering to know that you have a skill that could be used in any situation.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And the thing that so sticks out for me is that notion that like our education, whatever that be in terms of self-taught, whatever those skills are, if we do formal education, those are things that nobody can take those away from us, right? Like
Right.
that is where we can feel emboldened, we can feel empowered, and there's enormous amounts of confidence that especially I think the young generation will be able to lean into in a world that's so unpredictable, in a world that's so uncertain, that if you can do some key things and you know how to make it, as you said, how you can like pay your bills with these things, like this is amazing. Like this is how you're going to weather uncertainty and scary futures that we don't know about. But people keep telling us like AI is going to take away all our jobs. It's just like somebody's going to have to plug in the computer, right? Like somebody is like, there's still going to be jobs. These cannot replace certain types of positions and roles. And not to get discouraged by technology. It's like you want to be able to not just be the user of it, but that idea of that creator of it, like being able
Mm,
to use it for not just consumption, but for creation. I think is really going to position our young generation in a really positive way, especially when the world feels a little bit uncertain.
yeah, couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and I just love that our young children, like again, we have, our boys around the same age, is that they're growing up in this as this ecosystem where they have the opportunity to be creators. They have the opportunities to use this technology for good. They're able to, I know just recently, like, Jax was able to like talk to a whole bunch of coaches that, 10 years ago, you would never be able to get access to talk to some of these university coaches. And they're having conversations back and forth. Like there are so many positives to technology. And Kareem, I would love to have you back to help like dismantle all of these myths about the fact that technology is sending us to hell in a handbasket, because I see technology having so much good, especially for our society, especially for even how our children are building their skill sets. So thank you so very much for your time today. But I will absolutely hope, if it's okay, to invite you back, because we got to get rid of this notion that, our futures are in the hands of AI and we're lost, because I think there's so much hope for what our next generation, even the current generation, and how we're able to use these skills and the tech pieces that you teach and you talk about so amazingly. So Kareem, thank you. And it's been a pleasure to be able to chat with you today. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Robin. Thank you for having me. And of course, part two, I'll be there.
I love it. We're all in. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for spending time with me on this episode of Life by Design. I appreciate if you have a moment to pay this forward, share it with someone who you think might benefit from the ideas shared in this episode. If you're feeling so inspired, please also rate and review the podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. Take good care, and I'll see you next time.